My name is Vanessa. I am a registered nurse in Texas. I've been a nurse now for about 12 months, and I just wanted to come to y'all with some information, some knowledge, some experiences that I've gone through that hopefully is gonna help you students who are about to go into the real world or those who are just entering it now. So stay tuned because I'll be sharing some of the things that I've gone through, some of my worries, my doubts, and really just how I overcame them, because what I want you to know is that if you're a new nurse and you're dealing with a lot of anxiety, you're dealing with imposter syndrome, you're dealing with honestly feelings like you kind of want to quit because it's just too hard, I want you to know you are completely normal. And I've been there, I go through it often, and I just want to assure you that over time, I promise you it gets better. So stay tuned. And yeah, here in Texas at the hospital that I work at, whatever unit you got hired on, you had 2 to 3 months of orientation. So in your orientation time, you work with a more experienced nurse who's going to be precepting you, and you'll be working alongside her or him. So I'd come in the morning, I would meet with my preceptor. She would have her 4 to 5 patients in that day, and I would basically I'd be helping her take care of the patients, but based on my competency and my comfort level. So they don't just throw you in like, okay, you have a week of orientation and now you're on your own. Instead, you really have some time to learn, see how the other nurses do things, deal with patients, not fully responsibly on your own, but having somebody there who's gonna help you. At the end of my orientation month, and it was really time for me to go on my own as a nurse and take on my own patients, I did not think I was ready at all. A lot of the orientation process, you realize that everything you know about nursing, everything you've learned in school, you're studying for the NCLEX, taking care of a patient is nothing like taking care of a patient in a book. And I'm telling you, almost immediately, I had a huge reality check when I realized that 1, I had no sense of time management. 2, I had no idea how to deal with complex patients, and all of my patients were complex because I had never dealt with them before. And 3, I wasn't confident, and I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know what my resources were, how to handle situations on my own. Like, I literally needed help for everything. That's first off, anxiety. I think it came from feeling like you're prepared after going through school and NCLEX. You feel kind of prepared going in, but you don't realize how bad it's gonna be until you start. And I say that with joy, just to reassure you that, again, it's normal. Any type of anxiety you feel, any type of imposter syndrome that you're feeling, it's completely normal. And it just takes time and experience to overcome it. And you'll see how much you grow from your first day on orientation or by yourself to 12 months later, which is literally where I'm at now. Going into working with patients on my own was really scary. I had a lot of fear, like, what if I do something wrong? That was my biggest fear. What if I do something wrong that hurts somebody? What if I lose my license? I had a lot of anxiety around dealing with other nurses on the unit as well, because I'm a pretty shy person and I don't really open up easily. I always felt like a baby on my unit, like I was the youngest. I was just out of school. I just felt very inadequate, and I felt like I was always a bother to all of my coworkers. Man, I just had so many worries that would just come on me like from the moment that I woke up, and it would last until I got to work, and eventually I started working through some of the stuff that I was scared of. I do want to give some tips of how to overcome anxiety, and hopefully this is going to help you new nurses, you new grads, you students who are learning about this stuff now, who are going through it. But my very first tip is 1, prayer. Prayer. I would have to pray about this every shift, like on my way to work for my first, I want to say a month or maybe more than a month, honestly. I would call one of my friends. I'd just be like, hey, I'm just feeling really anxious. And I would word vomit and not really know what was causing the anxiety, but it was just all the stuff that was going on in my head, and we prayed together. And I always felt so much better after just literally giving everything that was on my mind to the Lord, because, you know, it says, cast your anxieties on the Lord because he cares for you. And that was something that I knew was his word, but it was something that it was hard for me to believe that if I did that, it would make a difference, versus me just trying to hold on to all of that anxiety and change it myself, because that's how I used to do things in the past. But I promise that once I started doing that, like, it helped so much. And you know, the Lord is gracious. He really does hear all of your prayers, even the ones that you're like, I don't even want to pray this to you. You may be fearing that he's judging you, whatever stupid thing is going on in your mind, like, it's not true. Don't ever fear going to the Lord about anything, and know that he hears you and know that he wants to help you. So I'd pray before going to work. I would pray at work too, when I'd have those moments where I really just wanted to like self-destruct and be like, I'm done with this, I'm out, or I just wanted to cry, or I just felt like it was too much. I'd have to go to the bathroom for a minute and just pray. Literally, sometimes I'd have moments where I would cry and just be like, God, please help me. Lord, please take my anxiety about hurting this patient. God, please give me the knowledge, the wisdom, the help that I need to be a servant to these patients, to cause no harm, God. Let none of my patients be hurt by the hands of my coworkers. In Jesus' name, like just stuff like that. Whatever was on my heart, I would literally tell him throughout my shift. And that helped so much. Sometimes I'd deal with fear in talking to my coworkers. Like, I'm a very shy girl, and then especially with the anxiety on top of it, it kind of just like snowballed into all of this fear I had in interacting with people. But one thing is, in nursing, you cannot do things on your own, especially if you're new. If you don't know what to do, if you have a question about something, if you feel unsure about this order, if this order says go do something that you've never done before, get help. You need to get help, because as nurses, one of our core ethics is beneficence, which is do good to your patient, and non-maleficence, which is do no harm. Part of that is operating in safety. If you are going to do something and you know in your heart you're not competent to do it, and that's okay, because remember, you're new, you don't know how to do everything, you need to get help. So I would feel a lot of anxiety even in asking for help. Like, I would still do it, but I was very hesitant. Again, I felt like I was a burden to other people. I felt like they wouldn't want to teach me. I felt like they would think I was weird. All this stupid stuff that my brain tells me that is really not who I am at all. It's not my identity. I would have to pray about that. Like, Lord, please give me confidence to go there and know that I do belong here and get the help that I need. And Lord, I pray for favor in my coworkers and in my patients. I would pray that the Lord would take some of the stress away from all of my other coworkers, especially on the nights where you could just feel that everyone's doing a lot. But yeah, so step one for me, prayer was everything. It was everything. And I can tell you that a year later, lots of the times you don't see our prayers happening in the moment. You don't see the prayers fulfilled until you've kind of walked through it, and then you look back and you're like, oh wow, I prayed that the Lord never allowed me to hurt somebody, and look, it's been a year later and none of my patients, as far as I know, have been harmed by me. So yeah, prayer, he hears you. It's important. Do it if you would like to try it, and don't doubt your prayers. And then another thing that would help is just reminding myself again that what I'm experiencing is normal. Try not to be afraid to be open about what you're feeling with somebody who you really trust and who's really helped you. So for me, it was my preceptors, and they would always tell me the same thing, like, oh, that's normal. Or they would give me tips on what to do, help me kind of work through what the anxiety was. And usually it was because I just didn't know what to do or how to do something. I felt like the situation was out of my control, which again, in nursing, part of overcoming anxiety is learning that there's a lot that you can't control. But yeah, so find that community of people who are more experienced than you, who have been through it, who you can be honest with and kind of just get some advice, or just somebody who's gonna listen to you. It's important to have people who are going through the same thing you're going through at that time. So new nurses who are just starting off, like, keep in touch with your classmates, your friends, those who are really gonna be like, yeah man, I'm struggling. And in a way, it makes you feel better just to know that you really aren't alone. So number 3, yes, I mentioned this before, but understand and know that you can't control everything, that you're not there to control, that there's lots of things that are going to happen that have nothing to do with you, and that you just kind of have to deal with. Take advantage of the resources you have. Your coworkers, your charge nurse is a great resource. If your other coworkers are busy, go to your charge and see if she can help you with stuff. Another thing that really helped me was, so before I go into a patient's room and I have my report sheet, I have my 5, well, I start off with 4, but I'd have my 4 patients. Before you go into the room, gather yourself. So let's say I have patient in 82, 83, 84, and 85. I would get a report from the previous nurse, and then I would write down my medications, what I was gonna be giving. I would kind of write down a plan for what needed to be done. So patient has wounds, their wound care orders. I need to change their wounds. They're on feeding tube. I would write down the type of feeding they're having, the amount, the goal, the amount of flight. I just write down all the things that I need to check on throughout the night and the things that I need to chart on too. When you have everything with you, it would really help to just pause, take a deep breath, read over it really quick. Like just get a quick overview of the patient's name, age, what they're here for, what you need to do, and then go into the patient's room. Versus you run in there and you just got all this information. You have, 3 other patients who are on your mind. You don't really know which one is which. You go in, you aren't paying attention to what you need for that day for that patient. So you leave realizing you needed to get certain information about just specific information to their condition. So you have to go back in there and you forget something else. You have to go out and you have to go in. So it just takes up a lot of your time and you're anxious because you're like, man, I have to do so much more stuff, but I just spent way too long doing this. But my 4th tip would be give yourself a lot of grace. This should actually be my 2nd tip, but give yourself a lot of grace in understanding that you're brand new to this. And alongside with that is don't compare yourself to the other nurses who have been doing this for a year or years, because there's a huge amount that you're gonna learn throughout your experience, even in 12 months, that you're just not gonna have in your first month of nursing. And if you compare yourself to other nurses and you see what they do, how, they get all their meds, they get everything together, they're done by, I don't know, within 2 to 3 hours of their shift, they're done with that first rush of stuff that needs to be done, and you're still working for hours after they finish. Don't compare yourself and feel like there's something wrong with you, or that you're not good enough, or that you're not fast enough, or that you're not this enough. Because the reality is you are fast enough and you are good enough, but you're just new. You're learning stuff. And for me, I learned the most when I was on my own from making lots of mistakes in time management. So take notes, try to ask them how they do, like how they prioritize certain things, and give yourself grace and understanding that it's going to take time for you to kind of figure that out. Like, I really didn't start to learn how to customer care well until maybe 3 months in, 2 to 3 months. And even then it was still a huge process. Like now I'm pretty good at it, but starting off I wasn't. And I would go through moments where I would compare myself to other nurses and I'd feel like, oh my gosh, well, how come she can do this and she can do that and I can't do this? Maybe I'm just not good at it. Maybe this isn't the profession for me. Maybe I'm just not ready. And I'm so glad I didn't listen to any of those things that I thought about myself, because now it's a year later and I'm doing everything that the other nurses are doing. I feel confident in my abilities and knowing that I am competent as a nurse. So give yourself a lot of grace. Again, remind yourself when you make certain mistakes and you're like, you want to be like, oh, I'm so stupid, or why did I do this, or you just want to like cuss or whatever it is. Give yourself grace and instead just be like, I'm new to this. I've only been doing this for 3 freaking days. Like, you're new, so you're not gonna know how to do everything right away. What is my last, but my last tip would be to celebrate the small things you do every day. So instead of focusing on the things you didn't do or the things that you did wrong, change the narrative completely and instead think about the things that you did do and celebrate the fact that maybe you did a full assessment on a patient and you felt like you knew what you were looking for. Celebrate the things like you asked the right questions. Celebrate the little catches you made that you might not have noticed previously. Celebrate, getting meds passed on time for 3 out of 4 of your patients when before you might have only done it for 1. Celebrate the moments where you realize you're learning things you didn't know before. And don't be so hard on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. Instead of focusing on the things that you did wrong and pairing that with some type of negative comment like, oh man, I didn't do this, I'm stupid. Instead of doing that, think about like, man, I didn't do this. Like, what got in the way of me doing that? Was I too distracted? Did I just forget? Did I need help? Did I need this? Like, focus on the solution to the problem versus just focusing on the problem and internalizing it, because that is going to destroy your self-esteem. It's going to destroy your confidence. It's going to probably make you mess up more because you start to not trust yourself, and it's really counterproductive to learning. So I hope that this video is helpful. Hopefully this is something that's going to give you some type of peace. And again, I just want to reassure you that everything you're experiencing, it is normal. We have all been through it. I still go through it on a regular basis. There are some shifts where I'm like, just don't know what the frick just happened, but you're gonna get through it. And if you love taking care of people, if you love people, number one, and you have a love for science, you enjoy your job in nursing, you'll have moments where you hate it, but other times where you really love it, you are in the right profession, and I just encourage you to keep going. So that's it for this. I will see y'all next time.